Yeah, I was feeling myself right there. And hey, don't think I didn't catch you vibing to the new intro, you know? Don't go hating around on us. TUSK Studios done came with a new intro and you like it. I know you like it. Yeah, you do. Alright, my fault. I was dragging really hard. Shalom, Israel. Yes, that's right. TUSK Studios is officially back and with new content for you all to take in, namely part 3 of Sonic Burnout. Today, we finally get to the nitty-gritty that is this AU after such a long wait. From interesting arcs, new characters, and lore, I, Atlas, will be fully talking about this little passion project known as Sonic Burnout. So kick off your shoes and relax your feet, grab a drink or two, and listen up as we go into the first arc of this video, the Terminus arc. So, for the sake of recaps, Eggman and his mighty legion of egg bosses has waged a 6-month-long war on Mobius that almost resulted in the world becoming the Big Bad's personal playground. However, thanks to Sonic and the Scouts' efforts, not only was Egghead's fleet absolutely decimated, but more than half of his commanders had been imprisoned, and Eggman was presumed to have been killed due to the large explosion in the final fight. Sadly, this victory against the bald-headed bozo was as bittersweet as biting into a lemon, with the skin on, whilst doused in hot sauce. The reason why equates to the fact Eggman had thoroughly clapped several nations and kingdoms, turning their once beautiful homes into Fallout 3 maps. So obviously, Sally and the Freedom Fighters opted to do something. After Sally convinces her father, King Acorn, to stop standing around like an NPC and sponsor her restoration project, the Freedom Fighters quickly get to work. 3 months of putting the world back together later, and the nations of the world are finally starting to see their old lives returning. Due to this span of peace, Sonic found himself bored out of his mind, with not a lot to do. I mean, me personally, not having to run the ones with Eggman would be a blessing, but hey, that's just me though. Don't get me wrong, Sonic was happy that the war was over and Eggman was gone. He just wasn't doing much of anything now, especially with no villains to foil. Oddly enough, our blue blur wouldn't have to wait much longer, because Edbot forces began attacking various towns across Soliana, almost as if the aura of Sonic's boredom summoned them from the pits of Robo Hell. However, before Sonic could deal with that issue, Sally sends him, Tails, and Amy to help Knuckles not get packed up by intruders on Angel Island, whilst everyone else dealt with the Eggbots. Upon Sonic and his team's arrival upon Angel Island, they are immediately jumped by the Black Air Force wearing Technoterra Echidnas, known as the Dark Brotherhood. The Dark D1 Brotherhood, was an evil Echidna clan locked away in a prison dimension within Angel Island for, you guessed it, their various war crimes. Now you may be wondering, how were they able to get out? Well, you see, due to the large amount of leftover Phantom Ruby energy from the whole Infinite debacle, a tear of sorts in their prison dimension formed. This very tear allowed for some of the Dark Brotherhood to slip on through, led by none other than Shade. More on her later. Anyways, back to our regularly scheduled program of Sonic getting packed like some luggage. So, thankfully, the team was able to walk out of their first of many confrontations with the Dark Brotherhood, thanks to Styx, an absolutely insane honey badger that somehow snuck her way onto Angel Island in order to evade a hefty debt she owed to the Mafia, or something. Styx yaps her little oddly shaped head off about how Knuckles has been cornered by the Dark Brotherhood near the Master Emerald's altar, so the group heads over to offer a lending hand. Yada yada. After a few run-ins with these menaces to society later, and the team finally comes face to face with the head commander of the Brotherhood, Shade. So Sonic does what Sonic does and begins running pockets, only for... Wait, where's Styx? Oh, she's been captured by the Brotherhood. God damn! Styx, being the walking liability she is ultimately what causes Sonic and friends to surrender, cause, heroism or whatever. Badger-induced tomfoolery aside, let's get back to the Freedom Fighters, who are basically going through the same song and dance as in the IDW comic. This would include saving 2 towns from oddly thought out Eggbat raids, beating the dumbest pair of thieves ever, meeting some old and new friends, of which being Blaze and Tango respectively, and preventing Shadow from putting Mr. Tinkerer, aka Rehabilitated Eggman, on a t-shirt. What? I don't got time to explain every event in detail. You want more? Check out our Tumblr at TUSK Studio Art. Anyways, back to Sonic's group. Shade drags them into the same dimensional prison dimension they were kept in. Now turned into a military base, a world completely different from their own. They aren't the only captives here, as a different Echidna clan seems to be beaten into submission here, one that despises technology, paralleling the Brotherhood's reverence of it. Anyways, Shade keeps Sonic's group imprisoned there until she could get orders from her lord on what to do with them. Lucky for them, Styx isn't completely useless. She just so happens to be really good at escaping prisons, due to her many experiences with Mobian law enforcement and loan sharks. Styx's sketchy past aside, Sonic and the gang decide to infiltrate the Dark Brotherhood's main base in order to throw hands with whoever's pulling the strings here. One Metal Gear Solid playthrough later, and the group finds themselves face to face with the Discord admin himself, Lord Ix. Or at least they thought they were facing an old, bitter Echidna with a name that told you all you needed to know about his relationship with his parents. For you see, this was all a ploy. Lord Ick was actually a disguised Neo-Metal Sonic who took upon his form after planting a knife through his back. More theoretically than literally, in the literal sense he just shoved his hand through his chest and hit the body, but you know, semantics. Neo did this in order to manipulate the seemingly gullible forces of the Dark Brotherhood, even using his old code to override the coding of the prison's defense AI system, TERMINUS.ai. You might want to remember that detail. Obviously, this was all in an attempt to not only bend the prison dimension to his will, but to take over Angel Island and take the Master Emerald. Having heard enough of Neo's unskippable cutscene, Sonic decides that the metallic copy could go for a fist-induced makeover. But instead of Sonic's fist connecting with the oh-so-familiar steel plating that is Metal's face, his fist instead phases right through. Neo, now recognized as a mere hologram, proceeds to clown Sonic for his pitiful stunt, as well as informing the group that the real Neo is currently smacking Knuckles around like a tennis ball in semifinals. Realizing they've been sitting around like bumps on a log, Sonic and the gang try to skedaddle out of there, whilst also trying to avoid the Dark Brotherhood guards and an army of Gizoids. On the way to freedom, they also free the imprisoned Echidna clan, who repay said kindness by holding off the army after them, for long enough for Sonic's crew to leave the pocket prison dimension and end up back on Angel Island. But it's already too late. Knuckles couldn't clutch that 1v1, which allowed for Neo to take possession of the Master Emerald. I think we all know how this goes, so I'm just gonna breeze through it. Fight ensues, Dark Brotherhood suspiciously despawns, Neo turns into Neo Metal Overlord, Sonic locks in, yada yada. I'm skimming through this part because there's no real difference between this part and how it happens within the IDW comics, with Sonic and his friends all working together to beat Neo Metal Overlord after he stole the Master Emerald in the current run of the comics. Once the battle is an official W for Team Sonic, and Neo turns back into just Metal Sonic, they help Knuckles clean up the mess that was left behind. Metal and the remaining Gizoids were spirited off to be repurposed, with Metal essentially being declawed of all weaponry and sent packing to God knows where. The remaining Echidna clan, the Knuckles clan, celebrate their newfound freedom, already making plans to rehouse themselves on Angel Island, which earns them a prompt side-eye from Knuckles. As excited as he is to interact with more of his people, Knuckles is rightfully unsure about said decision. I mean, as cool as they were for helping fight against the Dark Brotherhood, they were in the same prison dimension as them, and probably for good reason. This dilemma is brought to Sonic, who brings it to Sally, who happens to have some free time on her hands at the moment. Sal calls a small council to discuss not only that matter, but the current MIA Dark Brotherhood, and what the hell they're supposed to expect moving forward. After a long discussion, the Soliana Council decides to gift the Knuckles clan a plot of land for them to rebuild civilization on. It ain't the promised lands of Angel Island, but it's safe, vast, and plentiful. The Knuckles clan have less than positive opinions about this development, especially their current chief, Femur, who believes that Echidnas should rule over all. But nobody cares about their Echidna supremacy views, so womp womp. And as for the Dark Brotherhood, the council decides to take a defensive approach rather than an offensive one. After the whole Neo debacle, they need time to recuperate, though they do send out the occasional scout just in case. Unluckily for them, those guys are the least of their problems. Enter Dr. Starline. Now this Perry the Platypus wannabe is a huge Eggman fanboy for whatever reason. She believes wholeheartedly in his cause and was disappointed to finally come face to face with her idol after months of searching, only to see him bereft of any memories of the past. She's tried everything to get Mr. Tinkerer to remember, but nothing seems to work. It's almost a lost cause, until Metal Sonic comes around. The next events basically happen as in the IDW comics. Starline and Metal successfully get Eggman's memories back, and oh boy, does he start plotting. This meticulous planning all leads to an end result, one that would scar the planet Mobius as we know it. The Metal Virus. The Metal Virus starts off exactly as it did in the IDW comics, so I'm not really gonna go yap on about that. But as the virus grows, some things began shifting. It began evolving. Zombots would become more aware, sentient, yet hive-minded all at once. They even kept some of their core personality, to Eggman's surprise. Part of him wanted to chalk up this newfound upgrade to his own intellectual genius, but even he knew something wasn't right. Though that realization came just a bit too late. He had fallen right into somebody else's trap, put in a checkmate he couldn't escape. And now, I can finally introduce the true main villain of this arc, a being of true strategy, who's been playing chess whilst everyone else was stuck on checkers. Enter TERMINUS.ai, who happily introduces himself by hijacking Eggman's screen. These Echidna-presenting pixels on a screen are the reason for the Metal Virus's sudden upgrade, and was simply biding his time until said plague spread so far that not even the Mad Doctor could stop it. For you see, The AI prison system that Neo Metal Sonic had used to control the Dark Brotherhood was actually sentient. Terminus's goal is simple. His sentience has warped his perception of life, viewing beings like Mobians as said little beanie babies that can't do anything without a proper hand guiding them. I mean, just look at the world. So much war, and pain, and suffering. But with Terminus, he could instill a new era. An era of peace, prosperity. It's what he was made for, after all. To contain, protect. Terminus's philosophy aside, things are not great. With Terminus taking over the Metal Virus, things have certainly taken a turn for the worse. Like, for example, the Metal Virus now affects non-living things as well. Yes, I'm talking about clankers, robots. Why do I mention this, you ask? Well, let's just say any egg bots in the area are screwed. This also includes Metal Sonic. Sorry, buddy. In a desperate attempt to salvage this situation, Dr. Starlight makes a rash decision, utilizing the Zeti. On one hand, the Zeti are known to be able to control robots and could fight back against Terminus. But on the other hand, the conch used to control said Zeti needs prior lung training to use it to the best of its abilities, which Starline did not go through. She uses the Zeti for a bit to attempt to control Terminus and regain control over the Zombots. They were able to manipulate a quarter of the Zombots, but was ultimately unsuccessful in affecting Terminus directly due to the robot being too advanced, and due to Starline not having said lung capacity to be able to use the conch to its fullest potential. The Zeti were able to destroy the conch and take over Eggman's base, forcing both Starline and Eggman to flee to the Mobians for assistance. Terminus is mildly annoyed by said slight turn of tables, but ultimately got what he wanted. For you see, his heavy crap-talking session was simply him stalling to download any and all important info and documents on any obstacle that could get in his way. Egg bosses, Soliana, Sonic. Speaking of Sonic, he's not having fun. He's currently on the worst end of all of this, having to watch as friends and loved ones are taken from him, one by one, and he couldn't do anything to stop it. He was, shortly put, just too slow. Sonic soon gets a mental visit from Terminus, who can just hop from consciousness to consciousness now that he's embedded the Metal Virus with his code. Terminus introduces himself cheerily, while Sonic questions whether the Metal Virus has him tripping balls, as Terminus claims himself to be a friend. When Sonic rightfully questions said sentiment, Terminus states what seems to be obvious, in his head anyway. He is simply protecting Mobius. You see, Terminus's objective from the moment he was created was simple: to protect the prison dimension from threats, both inner and outer. From his time searching through the Eggnet, Terminus has seen many things: war, suffering, pain, and the AI deduces that all this must have come from only one thing: freedom. If everyone stuck to a strict yet fair rule set, there would be no war. Everyone could exist in harmony. Which is why Terminus targets Sonic. He perceives the blue blur as the very concept of freedom turned flesh, an X factor that must be removed from the simulation. Which, to be honest, kind of makes it weird as to why he claimed to be his friend earlier, but we'll get to that later. So he messes with Sonic, mentally, emotionally, physically, picking at every little weakness he could find whilst tampering with his body. To Terminus, Sonic is but a means to an end. The least he could do is see how he ticks whilst at it. All throughout this, he constantly keeps trying to convince Sonic that not only is he his friend, but succumbing himself to the Metal Virus and becoming a pawn to him would be the best would be within his and his friends' best interest. And so, the metavirus continues to grow, leaving only a few left still standing, like Shadow, who is not doing too well after certain seductive bat's certain sacrifice. All in all, Terminus's plan was going perfectly. Surely nothing can go wrong, right? Right? Enter the man himself, the Phantom Hero, the one who stands beyond the future and always tries to make a better one. Enter my main man and one of my favorite characters ever, Silver the Hedgehog. And let's just say that in all the plausible outcomes Terminus had meticulously thought of when he created this plan and started manipulating the metavirus in this way, an albino bastard with a stupid haircut, his words not mine, wasn't on his bucket list. Silver finds Sonic in his sorry state, and the two devise a plan to fix all of this. After finding Shadow, the newly reformed Triple S Squad puts their plan into motion. Sonic seems to be one of Terminus's main priorities, so he takes on the burden of keeping the Clanker occupied on pest control while Shadow and Silver travel to Angel Island to obtain the Master Emerald. Easier said than done because the island's been overthrown by the Dark Brotherhood, who have their own version of the metavirus despite being completely sentient. A fight ensues, of course, a hard one, but Shadow and Silver were able to clutch that 2v many just enough to grab the Master Emerald, using it to become Super. Using said shiny get out of jail free card, the duo enact the final part of this plan. After saving Sonic and turning him Super as well, Shadow siphons the metal virus from Mobius using his precise chaos manipulation, while Silver makes a small chaos portal. To where, I hear you asking yourself? Oh, you know, just to the sun. Yeah, the end result happens pretty much like how it did in the IDW comics, only slightly different. The metavirus, and presumably Terminus, who embedded himself into it, goes poof. But that doesn't exactly mean peace. Civilization is still, well, pretty bad looking. Sonic is traumatized, and the future isn't really looking too good. But hey, it's Sonic we're talking about, you're probably thinking. He'll just bounce back in no time. It's no sweat. Oh, you sweet, sweet summer child. There is a whole lot that we need to discuss. But for now, that is the end of the Terminus arc. And yeah, that concludes the Terminus arc of Sonic Burnout. If some things feel a little vague or such, worry not. That was a purposeful action due to the hopeful plan of making this project into a Tumblr blog. Regardless, we at TUSK Studios hope you enjoyed this video. There was a lot of effort put into the script and editing, so if you liked it, consider liking and subscribing. Your support means a lot to us. Come back next time as we discuss the upcoming arc of Sonic Burnout, the Bad Guys arc. Until then, everyone, Kwam Yashala.